and counting.
60.
The year is 2000. Lines of people around the world are camping out at GameStop. They're here for one sole reason.
I'm here for the PlayStation 2. The best entertainment system to hit the world.
A short year later, Bill Gates alongside The Rock debuted Microsoft's entrance into the video game industry.
We're unveiling the Xbox. This is the product that will be out later this year.
Xbox. It is truly the future of video games, and I'm very excited to simply be a part of it. If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
This kickstarted the largest explosion in popularity in technology since the invention of the computer. Innovative games were releasing left and right. I'm talking about games like Oblivion, Portal, Borderlands, BioShock, Call of Duty, and Halo were releasing one after another. There was endless amounts of fun to be had. It was literally the time to be alive. Every game and every iteration of titles seemed to be getting better and better than the last through creative and innovative changes. When Halo introduced Forge, it was one of the most awe-inspiring experiences. Creativity went off the charts with custom games. Maps like Infected, Duck Hunt, Jenga, Fat Kid, Teacher. I'm literally just sitting here smiling about it. And my personal favorite, Halo, a drive around or sky arena with a sniper in the middle trying to pick off the riders. Or imagine Damavan Peak in Battlefield 3. 64 people spawned in and lined up in preparation to sprint and parachute off the summit for the first time. Even finally reaching the end of World at War campaign to be alerted that there's a new game mode that has been unlocked. My friends and I would plummet hundreds of hours into these games, and it never got old. These weren't outliers. Every franchise seemed to be expanding themselves. Games were not the only thing growing, so did the culture. It was something truly beautiful, bringing millions of dedicated gamers together with so much passion for gaming, they would debate on which console was the best. The industry was in a state of ecstasy, and it had little sign of slowing down. But that was until Call of Duty flopped. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, flop. Halo 4 and 5, flop. Fallout 76, trash. And I'm a Fallout fan. Cyberpunk 2077, hard flop. And don't even get me started with the abomination of Battlefield 2042. One game after another seemed to be losing their flame. The culture began to turn more toxic than the MW2 lobby. Something overnight changed. Games were no longer their beloved predecessors, they appeared to change. It begs the question, how did monumental and innovative gaming studios like Bungie go from this?
Hey, this is Captain Awesome, 31494, Poopy Man 69.
You do is you get inside of it and you just start jumping really, really rapidly.
To this.
But do you want some real, honest feedback from me too? That Bungie would abandon this game's PvP essentially, which is what they've done. They've made us basically no new maps in like 4 years, yet continue to make us pay hundreds of dollars a year so they can go work on their next baby.
I love how Bungie just makes the same game every 5 years and people get excited about it. They make Marathon, they make Halo, they make Destiny, they make Marathon again. People are like, wow! Another futuristic shooter with weird-looking guns.
Now you might be thinking I'm being facetious. Are games actually getting worse, or are we adapting to receive less enjoyment from them? Science can provide a concrete reason to why games have evolved this way. With the expansion of the game industry came with what is known as the innovation dilemma. Imagine a designer at a startup studio. He has few shareholders, bosses, or hanger-ons to tell him that a risky idea won't work. No one expects anything of him. With nothing to lose, his ability to invent and innovation is completely unfeathered. Because that, he takes a risk and puts his heart and soul into a game, which results in a huge amount of money, his studio growing, and he becomes famous. Now the dark side of success takes a hold. The forces against innovation begin to grow around and inside him. Shareholders start calling about their quarterly earnings. A growing staff builds up expectations and assumptions of what's to come. Slowly, the risk-taking ad hoc studio culture of the startup is replaced with a ponderous paperwork machine. He begins questioning himself, thinking too harshly of his own ideas, and perhaps becomes afraid of change now that he has so much to lose. As a result, the once successful design studio loses their ability to invent. His nothing-to-lose creative fire gets doused with water. He turns into a defensive cash cow milking mode as he attempts to stretch out his initial success forever. Most of the large companies today are haunted by the innovator's dilemma. They're static targets living off an old victory, too afraid to innovate for the repercussions that come alongside monumental innovation. The Matthew effect hasn't taken over the industry. The effect is based on the Bible verse Matthew 25:29, which reads, "For everyone who has will be given more, and he will have abundance." In short, meaning it's a winner-take-all industry. The games that are popular have far more advantages to become more popular. The small designers, the ones stripped of innovator's dilemma, that are actually making innovative changes, lack funding and are outshined by the large corporations, never getting an ounce of the spotlight. However, there is something far more malevolent going on than that. The reason why games are no longer fun anymore is not just due to the lack of innovation, but it's due to the hijacking of the reward center. Studios in the early 2000s had very limited knowledge of human psychology. With limited knowledge, there was a lot of guesswork, and developers did their best job at producing a game that felt enjoyable to them. As the industry grew, so did the research behind what makes a game addictive. Developers began utilizing strategies like variable reward center, flow state, and compulsion loops to turn our beloved games into compulsion machines. Due to the exploitation of these systems, games have been wired differently, prone to producing behavioral addictions. They have began viewing the consumer not as a human, but rather as a rat that they can program to keep using their product to ensure profitability for their shareholders. In order to understand why games no longer have the same thrill they once had, we need to look at dopamine, a reward and motivation chemical. The general understanding of receiving dopamine is that the system quickly returns back to the baseline. In part, this is true for the first time we experience something new. However, as time goes on, the preceding experience provides less dopamine spikes but larger troughs below baseline. The larger troughs below baseline then trigger more desire and pursuit for more of the addiction, which sets in a vicious loop where people start pursuing peaks of dopamine that come fast with very little effort. The whole system begins shifting away from pleasure and more to pain and the desire of the pursuit of the substance. Simply put, the pleasure becomes less satiable over time, but the need to feel the initial experience will thrive and flourish inside. Dopamine does not provide the entire explanation. Intrinsic and extrinsic rewards is another part of the pie. Extrinsic motivation is when you do something to obtain a reward external to the activity. And intrinsic motivation is when you do something for the pleasure of doing it, not to get something external to the task. In the past, people simply played for the joy of interacting with the system, because they wanted to, not because there was fame, money, or external desires attached. In order to understand a concept, we need to look at a study. One group was asked to engage in the game, while the other was asked to do the same, but they were given money for it. The participants were asked to continue, but they removed the reward for the second group. The group who was never paid happily continued, while the group that was paid lost all interest now that the reward was gone. Once a reward enters the equation, it's hard to unsee, and it begins to distort, displace, and even destroy intrinsic rewards, thus lowering the enjoyment. As the rise of streaming, esports, and content creation entered the gaming industry with possibility of worldly rewards, alongside came the downside. In modern gaming, people no longer interact with the system for the sole purpose of interacting with it. There are other external variables in consideration that are therefore destroying the enjoyment of games.
I don't know, what are you doing with your life where you have hours of time to watch Twitch and not $5?
If you would like to escape the rat race of video games and learn how to gamify your life to live a fulfilling life, click subscribe. I have nothing to sell you, my book is entirely free. I just want to provide an opportunity that I didn't know existed for men just like you. As always, I'll see you in the next one.